Oh, stay that close.
Hey, baseball fans, this is James Scott. This is not the baseball show. Me and my uncle were thinking about, the normal baseball show. We try to condense it. We try to get like 6-7 minutes of just pure information and like the way I see the game and everything. This is going to be like a separate series of videos. I'm not going to title it as the baseball show, and if you guys wanted to hear some sort of like really condensed way of understanding statistics, this is not where you want to go. You just want to, if you want to watch this video, you're going to watch me and my uncle explaining some of the more advanced statistics in the game and where I get my predictions from and where I get my information from. So specifically today, we're going to be talking about BABIP, or batting average on balls in play, and how that deals with whether a team's going to get better or get worse, or whether players in general are going to get better and worse. It helps that it's also a statistic that can be used for pitchers. All right, well, if you still stuck around, here you go. So what's your first question about it?
So my first question about it is that you made the baseball show and you talked about predictions.
Yes.
How do you shore up, or can you use BABIP figures or shore up your beliefs about the predictions? Can you use that BABIP? Can
I use BABIP for the predictions? I mean, most of the predictions are based around what I know certain hitters are capable of. It can come from other statistics that are just, repeated year after year after year. So I know at some point a player's going to come around. And then, of course, there's players like Mark Teixeira who always have really good second halves, and they always do really bad before the All-Star break, so you kind of have to give those guys time. But one of the biggest things I use in these kind of predictions is BABIP. BABIP is batting average on balls in play. It basically takes whatever a hitter, like for a hitter, if a hitter gets up to the plate, anything that they hit into play, whether they're safe or out, that's their BABIP. It's like batting average. It just doesn't count strikeouts and whatnot. It's only on balls put into play. And league average BABIP is roughly somewhere in between 280 and 320. It can sometimes go a little higher than 320, depending on if that player is very fast. If you have a very, very fast player, typically they have BABIPs sometimes in the 330s, low 340s. Just because if you hit a ball into play and you're that fast, you're going to sometimes be able to beat out a few grounders. The only case where there's a player who's not fast who might have a high BABIP is if they're a player that's one of the best hitters in the game, because they're just going to they're going to hit it so many times so hard that their BABIP is going to be really high. But the most important thing of BABIP actually is understanding whether players are going to get worse or players are going to get better. For instance, I believe Russell Martin of the Yankees has a BABIP something like 187 or something like that. And if the league average for even slow players, Martin's not necessarily slow. He's a catcher, so he's slower, but he can still steal a few bases. The league average BABIP is somewhere between 280 and 320. And he has won 100 points below 280. That basically means that pretty soon he's due for a really good hot streak where he's going to be hitting balls into play. It's not something that he's going to be able to repeat for the whole season. He's not going to be hitting this bad for the whole season, because it's impossible for somebody with as good of a bat as him to have luck as bad as he has on balls in play.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I mean, you can take the whole BABIP theory and you can turn it around completely. Prime examples, Ruben Tejada of the Mets. I like Ruben Tejada. He's a scrappy player. He's a shortstop. He plays good defense and everything. And he's hitting, so he has some incredible numbers. Like I think his batting average is something like 320. I don't know. Just some crazy numbers. I was looking over it the other day. And my friend Justin, he's a Mets fan, and he's sure that they're going to do well this year and whatever. And all power to him. I hope the Mets do well. I don't have anything against the Mets, despite being a Yankee fan. But Ruben Tejada, despite his success, that's unsustainable. If you want to look at his batting average on balls in play, it's something like 380. And his teammate, Kirk Nieuwenhuis, has a batting average on balls in play at 400, which is 80 points higher than league average. It's not something you're going to be able to keep up over a full season's length. So, I mean, that's a lot of the time while you see teams like Baltimore that I mentioned on my last baseball show post. That's why they're doing really, really well now, and that's why, 3 months from now, they're going to be nowhere near the Yankees or the Rays.
So is there an advantage to be hitting below league average early in the season?
I mean, it depends, because when you look at teams that are really going to catch fire, a lot of the time, a lot of players in that same lineup have really low batting average on balls in play, especially compared to what their career averages. So, especially in fantasy baseball, this is, for you guys who do fantasy baseball, you want to be able to pick up people who have really good ability, but because of their batting average on balls in play, have not been able to use that ability. So to answer your question, if you have a team that's not hitting well at all at the beginning of the season, and typically their batting average on balls in play would have been their league averages, would have been, or rather career averages would have been a lot higher. Yes, that's a huge advantage, because if you can have everybody on the team start hitting at the same time, that's something that can carry over game after game after game, and it sometimes can even extend slumps, because if everybody's hitting, it produces a good feeling. It produces being able to keep it up. It's something where teammates can compete against each other, and teammates can see what each other did and sometimes play off of each other. So for a team to have a lot of players with low BABIPs, I think that's a very that can be a very good thing. Although during the time while they are having these low BABIPs, they're not going to win a lot, and the fans are going to be a little ticked off. I feel like that's what's going on up here in New York. The Yankees aren't hitting at all, and they're losing games like 3-2. They actually won, I think, 3-2 last night, which was nice. But I mean, one-run wins are never good. So it'd be really good for a team to have that kind of situation. Moving on to how BABIP affects pitching, because it works for pitchers. A lot of the time you'll see pitchers that are like no-name pitchers, people like you've never heard of, and all of a sudden they have an amazing first few starts, right? And they look like they're going to be like the next Roy Halladay or CC Sabathia, and everybody on the MLB network starts overhyping them and making them seem like they're a lot better than they really are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what ends up happening is it's mostly based on left on base percentage and BABIP. If somebody's leaving 90% of runners on base, that's a different statistic that we'll get in on a different day. If somebody's leaving 90% of runners on base, that's not repeatable. And if somebody has, in addition to that, a really, really, really low BABIP as a pitcher, if the batters that they're throwing to, their BABIP collectively against that pitcher, if they're really low, in addition to having high left on base percentage, that pitcher is going to have a rude awakening in the second half of the season and probably get lit up, and in many cases sent down to the minors. So, that just explains luck statistics right there. I can go into more detail in a few more posts, but yeah.
Great.
So I hope you enjoyed this the baseball show. I'd like to do more of these because it's a lot more relaxed and it's not as intense and focused as the other ones. But it also is very self-explanatory in what it's about. So maybe I'll do a few more of these next week. Please leave your comments in the doobly-doo below. And subscribe, as all these YouTubers say. All right, have a nice weekend, guys. I'll see you later.